All right, let's dive into the life of an absolute legend, Carlos Gardel, the immortal voice of Tango. Now, his legacy is massive. Nobody denies that. But for nearly a century, it's been haunted by one single burning question that has literally divided nations and stumped historians.
And that question is, where was Carlos Gardel actually born? Was he French, from Toulouse, or was he Uruguayan, from Tacuarembó? For decades, this one simple question has been one of history's great unsolved mysteries.
So we're jumping right into El Misterio de Gardel. And believe me, this is way more than just a historical debate. It's a full-on cultural clash, a genuine cold case that has pitted two continents against each other over the identity of a global icon.
I mean, think about it. Everyone agrees on his genius. We all know that voice. But the one thing that should be the simplest fact in the world, his birthplace, has been the source of so much controversy and passion. It's wild. Okay, so let's break down the two sides of this story. France versus Uruguay. The rivalry is so fierce, people often compare it to a Boca River soccer match. You've got passionate fans on both sides, and each is absolutely convinced they know the truth. So on one side, we have the French thesis. This is the one you might have heard before. It says he was born Charles Romuald Gardez in Toulouse, France. For a long time, this was the accepted story, and it's backed up by a French birth certificate and other documents, which, and this is a huge detail, only surfaced after he died. Then you have the Uruguayan thesis. This side says no way. His name was always Carlos Gardel, and he was born in Tacuarembó, Uruguay. And their proof? It comes from Gardel himself, from official statements he made while he was still alive. And the people who support the Uruguayan side don't just disagree. They call the French story a fraudulent legend. They argue it's a convenient narrative that was put together only after Gardel was gone and couldn't speak for himself. They say his actions in life tell a completely different story.
So for years, the debate was just stuck in a stalemate. Evidence versus counter-evidence, back and forth. But what if the key to cracking this whole case was hiding in plain sight for over 100 years? We're talking about a document from 1920 that could change everything. So picture this. It's 1920. Gardel is already a big star, but he's not yet the global icon he's going to become. And at this really pivotal moment, he takes a very deliberate, very legal step to define his own identity, once and for all. To really get how important this is, you just have to hear how researchers talk about it. One of them, Gustavo Colman, calls it the found Rosetta Stone. I mean, think about that. Not just another clue, but the one thing that helps decipher the entire puzzle of who this man was. So what is this Rosetta Stone? It's a civil registration document. In 1920, Carlos Gardel walked into the Uruguayan Consulate in Buenos Aires, which is legally considered Uruguayan soil, and he filed a document, totally of his own free will, declaring his name, his parents, and his place of birth.
And inside this document, Gardel states, under oath, that he was born in Tacuarembó, Uruguay, to parents named Carlos and María. This is why researchers call it the first brick. It was the legal foundation he used to build his entire official identity for the rest of his life. And this is absolutely crucial. This wasn't some casual comment. Gardel used this 1920 registration for everything: to get his citizenship in Argentina, to get his passport, to buy property. Every major legal move he made as an adult stemmed directly from this one declaration that he was from Uruguay. So as you can imagine, this discovery completely transformed the debate. It stopped being about just winning a historical argument and became a fight for something much bigger, an individual's right to define their own identity. In legal speak, what Gardel did is called an acto personalissimo, a deeply personal act. It was his choice, his word, defining for the world who he was. The argument now is that this personal declaration has to outweigh documents that just conveniently showed up after his death. So, what's the plan now? Well, it's a multi-step legal journey. First, they found and notarized the original 100-year-old registry book. Done. Next, they're pushing for an official expert analysis. From there, it goes to the Uruguayan presidency to get the state's official backing. And the ultimate goal? To take the case all the way to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. And the core argument, the principle that drives this whole thing, is simple, but it is so powerful. You can't change a person's identity after they're dead. This is a fight to protect the identity that Gardel himself chose and legally stood by his entire life. So, with this incredibly powerful evidence now certified and out in the open, what happens next?
What's the future for this legacy and this quest to honor the word of the legend himself? Well, right now, the ball is in the Uruguayan government's court. The evidence is there, it's been notarized, and now researchers are waiting to see if the state will officially get behind the case and help take this fight to the international stage.
And it's really important to understand the nuance here. The goal isn't about starting some kind of cultural war or taking Gardel away from Argentina. It's about honoring his full Rioplatense identity, a man born in Uruguay who chose Argentina as his home and became a symbol for that entire beautiful region.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question. When you get right down to it, beyond any passport or any document, who truly gets to define a cultural icon? Is it the historians, the nations who claim him, or is it the artist himself? It's a question that really gets to the heart of what identity and legacy are all about.